ADHD Babes, the podcast. A podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Join us every 2 weeks to share in our babes' personal experiences, gain useful tools, and be educated by special guests in topics such as ADHD management, relationships, general well-being, tech and fun, culture, and more. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDBabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. Today's episode is hosted by me, Jemmar, and
me, Abigail, and today we're going to be discussing ADHD diagnosis, exploring what ADHD is and what the process of being diagnosed is.
Joining in on the discussion, we are joined by one of our ADHD babes, Beza.
Hey, my name is Beza and I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I just got diagnosed in December 2020.
Ooh, thank you for joining us. To get started, let's start with what is ADHD?
ADHD is a group of behavioural symptoms that includes inattentiveness, and with inattentiveness comes things like distractibility and poor concentration, and also impulsiveness and hyperactivity, so things like fidgeting and over talking. So I think that's what attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD is, and I think it covers a range of those things, and it doesn't necessarily affect your intelligence, but has an impact on your behavior. So our brain executive functions like our working memory and our concentration and self-regulating actions. My experience of getting diagnosed. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting process. So I got my official diagnosis, I'm trying to think of timeframes now, September last year. And I think I suspected I had ADHD for about the last maybe 4 years. I think 2018, I read an article by Penny Bell. So she's like a mentor and youth advocate, and she talks a lot about her like brain. And she was just explaining her experience with ADHD and was talking about it. And then I really like related to everything she was saying. So I read it and I was like, hold up, I'd never thought about all this. So I realized that I was like, okay, I think I have ADHD. Was totally clueless how to go about the process and was kind of like Googling, and then I saw the right to choose process. So in the UK, normally the advice is to kind of go through your GP and then kind of explain your symptoms. But there's also something which I think is pretty hard now because of like a long waiting list. I think the waiting list is so unprecedented at the moment for ADHD. But my process was I went through the right to choose, which I think is like a legal right to choose your mental health care provider. So you can like put a letter together to your GP, explain why you think you have ADHD and present that to them, and then they'll forward it over to that team who would kind of help with the ADHD process. So I think altogether the process took about a year. Was it about a year? I think it was like the March I sent this over to my GP. There was kind of a bit of back and forth, and I'm happy to speak about that later. But I feel like, especially as Black women, you're often having to really like advocate and prove why you think you have ADHD. So I came like really prepared, writing it to like explaining and expressing myself to the GP with this letter and saying that I had the legal right to go down this process. They had to then send that information over to this provider. So I think that was in March. And then it was like, the following, so maybe it was about 6 months. The following September, I think I finally had my assessment, and then I've gone through that. And then it was just recently in January that I've now started the titration process for ADHD medicine. So yeah, it was about, I guess, from March to January, so just under a year. But that was, definitely my experience. And in terms of the actual, I guess, process with the psychiatrist, they kind of speak to you through an assessment and have like a list of, I guess, examples. You have to kind of explain to them your experience. They also get someone close to you to fill in a form to kind of talk about their experiences, I guess, of some of those things. So in my case, I asked my boyfriend to fill it in. And then, yeah, you kind of talk through the psychiatrist. And I guess there's a certain, I think, number that they kind of go through. If you hit the indicators in terms of inattentiveness, hyperactivity, and things like that, they can tell you whether you have ADHD. So I think that was my process.
I love how you were so detailed in explaining that, because that was not my process at all. But we're not going to talk about me yet. Beza, do you want to share yours? Am I right in assuming you're based in the States, right?
Yes, I'm in Washington State.
Okay.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about how your experience was getting diagnosed in comparison to Abigail? Because like Abigail said, in the UK, right to choose, because obviously we had the NHS and it should be free and accessible under the NHS, but the waiting list,
right,
no one quote me on this, is like 5 years now for
on average. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, for an adult. Technically, I'm still on the NHS waiting list, but again, we'll talk about me in a minute.
Yeah.
Beza, do you want to go?
Yeah, and of course. So I actually started my journey by just seeing on Twitter. I saw someone reposting these like ADHD comics, and I was like, it was like a Black woman that was retweeting those. So I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I keep relating to these comics. I think you've seen it, like the ADHD alien. So I was like, oh my gosh, that is so me. And then I just kept, I like went on YouTube and I was like watching videos, and then I just went into this little, I was
that
like,
rabbit
where
hole.
else can I find all this? Yep, exactly. And so I was like, where can I find more information? And then I was like, I have it. Like I made up my mind. I went to my sister and I was like, hey, I think I have ADHD. And she was like, yeah, you do. And then I went to my mom and she was like, what do you mean? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start this journey, because I already had I had started on a mental health journey like in 2016. But that was more so like depression. And I also had trouble with my stomach. I was like, tried birth control for my periods. Like I was trying to do a lot of different things when I first started university. That was like, I think I started 2015 is when I started university, undergrad. And so there were a lot of like mental health issues that were already coming up. And so I was focused on depression and fixing that. And then like later on in the years, I was like, wait a minute, there's something more, because those antidepressants were not working. So I was like,
really interesting. I have seen something that says often women tend to be like misdiagnosed with other like PTSD, depression, or if we do have those things, it's often exacerbated because we didn't get that original ADHD diagnosis. So I feel like we constantly go to GPs and they tell us all these other things but ADHD.
I was gonna say that, like, I heard that because because we're like going through life undiagnosed, we're struggling, and we then develop anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff.
So then after like the whole like antidepressants and all that wasn't working, I was like, let me do therapy. And then so what I currently have is like Medicare, which is a government, it's like a government insurance, you can get like medical stuff under there. So it's a medical health insurance. So I don't have to pay for like dental and it's usually like income based.
Okay, so it's similar, I guess, maybe to our national health system in some ways.
Right. So then I didn't have to pay for along this process, really. And so once I tried to go more, when I realized that that's what it was, then I contacted like the University of Washington, like medical offices here. And I was like, who can I go to? It was really hard to see which offices have like a psychiatrist that can actually diagnose this. So then I find one. I'm like, yay. I have it booked. It was in August 2020. I go to his, it was like a telemed because it was like during COVID, right? So it's through video. I'm like so nervous. I awkwardly like tell him a little bit about me and all this. And then he goes like, I'm a pediatric. I only diagnose like pediatric people. I was like, are you serious? I was like, so the people that like scheduled me with you like didn't see my age. I'm obviously 20 something. Like I think I was like 20, 21 that age. So I was like, he was like, yeah, I do like 5 and like below or something like that, or like 5 to 10 or something.
I'm
and I was
like, 5 and below.
How? I know. I was like, bro. I was like, why did they schedule me for this? Like, I was like, I'm not a PD. Yeah, I was so irritated because I was already like so nervous, and like the effort was just like the anxiety, and so demoralizing when he told me that, and he let me tell my story too. I was like, he
That's
didn't
what
see
I'm
that I
saying.
was
Whoa,
When you walked in,
I was like, he didn't let me go on. I was like, obviously I'm not a kid. Like, I'm like
he can surely see that, right?
Right. I was like, was he just trying to get the money? Because like usually like if they're under Medicare, you know, like if they have a scheduled person, then obviously get paid for that time. Like he got paid for that time, you know what I mean? Like through the like whatever. Like even though I didn't pay, like that still was a time for him to claim, you know? So I was like, dang, like it just really irritated me. And he was just like, I don't know. He just like kind of, it was just not, we did not like mesh that well, and I didn't have to see him again anyway. So, but so then I was calling other offices, and they were like, yeah, there's like, it's so hard to like, you know, find them. And she's like, I'm sorry. And
sorry to interrupt you, but is it that there's you need a psychiatrist, but there's no psychiatrist that specializes in diagnosing ADHD? Is that what they're saying? That's
in for at least for adults, right?
Oh, okay.
So he diagnoses children.
Oh, okay, cool.
Right.
so interesting.
Yep. That's what some people, I don't know why they do that, or like what's the difference between like them. I don't know, maybe because he's just a pediatric physician. But yeah, so he only diagnoses children, and so that's also like a problem, like, you know, a problem for a lot of adults actually, you know, figuring out when you have like a late diagnosis, you're like, where the hell do I go, right? So I kind of felt that. And then after that, I actually met another psychiatrist who actually did take an adult, and I believe, so I had that in August 2020, and then I think I met her maybe October or something. I had to wait like a few months for the next person, and that was through telemed too. And like the first time I met her, she was just like, yeah, you have ADHD. Like it was like she was so like affirming, and it was so nice to like hear just the things that I've been thinking about, or I guess that I've been researching about. And she's like, yep, like a lot of the signs, like it was just so interesting. And I told her like a childhood story when I was in second grade, and I was like, you know how like it's always like it manifests itself in those
everything
ways.
starts making sense all of a sudden,
right? You're like, whoa.
And affirming's the word, isn't it?
Story?
Yeah, I think affirming is such a perfect word, because like you said, you just realize that I'm not crazy. There's like, it's validation, there's a reason, and I feel like that can help you be like compassionate to yourself when you know that there's like validation and a reason why you do the things the way you do.
And I think because, you know, ADHD is kind of in our heads, that people kind of say it's all in your head, and because it's not like you're bleeding and you can say, look, I'm bleeding, then someone's like, I mean, that would still be annoying, you can clearly see I'm bleeding, but
it's an invisible
the fact that you like someone that you don't have to prove yourself per se, you're just talking and like, I believe you.
Exactly.
Objectively, you have this thing.
Yes, it felt so good to like finally get that. And then after that, it's like the next step is like, where do I go, right? Coaching or medication. And so I started like a medicine, did not like it. It was like I had to take it twice a day. And so then I was like, I didn't want to take like a stimulant. So I'm taking a non-stimulant currently. I'm taking venlafaxine, I think. And that was the second one I tried. So it's always a try and error. And so I take that every night, so I don't have to take it during the day and feel the like symptoms during the day, you know, like if I have any feeling, it's through the night. And so yeah, and then after that, she's been really kind. And after getting like officially diagnosed, which is also like a problem that this society, like it creates like who's officially diagnosed and who's not, but it does make a difference in like how I move and how I internalize, I guess, things that I do. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Beza.
Yeah,
of course. Thank you.
That sounds like a roller coaster. I thought mine was a roller coaster. You beat me.
But definitely interested to hear your Jemmar, because you said twice.
Yes,
right.
Really interested to hear that you had the awareness and the language at 12 to even know that.
Listen, all I'm saying is that at 12, I just decided that I had ADHD. Don't ask me why. I think one of the things that contributed to that was that growing up, my mom would never ever let me have fizzy drinks. She was like, no, it makes you hyper. So like for a long time, when I like go to like family and friends, like the parties, I was never allowed to have fizzy drinks because it makes me hyper. My mum knew that. I don't think she even remembers that was the thing that she like literally, I wasn't like, back before what's his name, Jamie Oliver destroyed UK like food. Basically Jamie Oliver's like a guy who based like healthy food. So back when we could eat junk food, like I think everyone had that, you know, fizzy drinks and sweets all the time. And I remember my mum was always restricting me because she's like, it'll make you hyper. But then also randomly at like 10, I decided that my brother has dyslexia and my mum didn't believe me, and I bought a book to explain it to her.
Wow.
And then like she didn't believe me, and then he got to secondary school and they diagnosed him with dyslexia. But anyways,
we might need you to work in this, like,
I know.
healthcare system.
Listen, I'm going to be a psychiatrist. I'm going to move to the States and be a psychiatrist for adults. But basically, how did it happen? So I was in therapy at university during like my during my placement year. And as like many people in my life tell me, Jemmar, calm down and relax. And I was like, I can't, I struggle. I hate when people say that. And she said very calmly, I'm just going to put it out there. Maybe you have ADHD. Don't think anything of it. Well, maybe you have an ADHD brain.
Sorry, who said this?
My therapist.
Oh, your therapist.
Yeah. A lovely Black woman. And then she said, maybe you have an ADHD brain, but let's move on from that. Did I move on? No. I went back to my university and I was like, so my therapist thinks I have ADHD. So can I get tested? So I did a mini assessment at my university. It was like 30 minutes talking me through it. Then I did like a full assessment, which was like 2 hours. And I don't think he was a psychiatrist. I think he was an educational psychologist, because obviously I was in education. And then I got the ADHD diagnosis, and I remember he was like, most of the report, you're not going to understand it. But there's one part that you will like clearly understand. And basically, I remember like the report was so detailed for all these like terms and stuff like that. I just didn't get. And then in bold it said Jemmar has ADHD with some indicators of dyspraxia in bold. And I remember I took a screenshot of that, sent it to all my friends. I was like, I have ADHD. This is it, confirmed. And then I kind of just parked that, and like I kind of just parked it and just like, okay, cool, I know what's wrong with me. And I was like, yeah, I know what's wrong with me. And then I just left it. I didn't really deal with it. And then because I was on my placement year, so I was working instead of studying. Then I went to my final year, and then I realized that I was struggling like I'd always been, and that, you know, because I got this diagnosis, I could get all this help from my university. So I got all of that, this extra support, extra time, software. But I finished my degree during the pandemic, so like it wasn't like the best experience in general. So then that happened, and then also I moved back home during the pandemic, and I just remember one of the doctors at my new GP practice was like, yeah, that diagnosis that you got, because I was like, so what help can I get in as an adult in the working world? Because I was like, surely there's something to help me. I can't just, you know, be left to my own devices. And he was like, yeah, how do you know you have ADHD? And I was like, at university I got diagnosed. And he literally said, I don't think we accept that outside of education. So I was like, so I have this really detailed report that like is valid in education but not valid out.
You've actually just reminded me that I had a similar thing at work that I got, that then they told me that it's not official, like it will help you in the workplace, but if you want to get medication or anything further, it's just such a disjointed system.
It's ridiculous. And I was like, that's why I want medication support, like in general. Are you telling me I can get nothing? So then I realized, and then also I realized that, you know, the assessment and support and diagnosis, like the whole process at university was just so I can finish my degree and go about my business, not actually to help me as a person. So then I was like, okay, cool. And this is when I discovered ADHD Babes, and I discovered, you know, Psychiatry UK and the right to choose and how I can access my right to choose. I remember like my GP declined, and then I'll never forget, like someone in ADHD Babes, I don't even remember the name, but shout out to them. They're like, no, that's really illegal. You are accessing your right to choose, and you need to tell them that they can't do this because they decline. And I remember I contacted Psychiatry UK, and then they spoke to my practice on my behalf, and then they sorted it out. And then I finally got on Psychiatry UK, and then because at that point, pandemic, a lot of people were like getting their diagnoses and that kind of thing. It took a bit longer than it was supposed to, but I finally got my assessment. And I'll never forget, this psychiatrist came in after like 5 minutes. He's like, yeah, you got ADHD.
No, but playing games.
No, honestly, here's the best part. He was like, yeah, you got ADHD, but there's some of the symptoms you're talking about. It seems like you might be autistic. Tell me about that. That's basically what happened. Yeah. And I was like, so this is how I got.
Is it I can never say it properly, but
Comorbidities?
Thank you, Beza.
I didn't know
You're more
before.
likely to have everything because I have ADHD and dyspraxia, so it makes sense that they all interlink, don't they, in so many ways.
Listen, so like now when people ask me what I have, I'm like, I definitely have ADHD because I got diagnosed twice. Might have some indicators of dyspraxia, and I might be autistic. I don't know the process of again autism diagnosis, but we move on. But yeah, so then I got my diagnosis, and I've been on my titration since like last November, October. Long story short, at this point, the medication, I'm pretty sure the medication is not working for me. Like I just have extreme headaches and pain. And like, let's just say the last time I checked, which is like about 2 months ago, because I've been unwell, the maximum amount I could take was like 28 milligrams in a day, and actually 18 milligrams in a day, because 28 would make me feel like excruciating pain. And then I had like my 6-month assessment, like follow up with my psychiatrist, and he was like, yeah, the minimum that people are supposed to take is like 70. Let's just say for argument's sake, he said 60. I'm like, and I can't handle 28. So I was like, at this point, I've been thinking just to contact my nurse for my titration and being like, hey, I don't think this is working for me. I had a coach at one point. But yeah, I'm just at this point, I know I have ADHD. I'm just on the journey trying to figure out what will help me. I don't want to say manage it, but like master it. I think that's the word I use, master it, because it's like, it's a gift and a curse. It's not going to go away. And it affects me in so many different aspects. Like at this point, I'm obsessed with like the relationship between ADHD and PMS and that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, listen,
that's why I had to take birth control to like, I'm like, I'm sure I got PMS,
you feel like
PMDD,
your symptoms really exacerbate then when you're like, do you feel like they really exacerbate when your period is coming? Because I feel like my symptoms are
definitely.
Oh my God.
On 10.
I was at my friend's house on Sunday and I just cried. Like he was on the phone to his dad and his grandmother. They were in Trinidad. And I just started crying. In his room, I just started crying. And then I told him afterwards, I was crying. And he was like, what? Why were you crying? And at this point, he knows. I was like, bro, my period's coming. And he was like, this again. Not in like a bad way, but like, Jemmar, because every month when I speak to him a lot, every month around my period, I just start crying. I'm not a crier, but he always catches me. And it's like, but yeah, I'm obsessed with like understanding my ADHD in relation to something. That's where I'm at. But yeah, I think
that's I just realized when you were talking that I didn't talk about the like assessments. I did the same as you both, that I had to fill out like a form, and then she got it and then gave it back to me. And then she also called, the person that I used was my mother. And so she was just like, does she exhibit signs? Like, and my mother also had to fill a form. And so she had a phone visit as well with my mother. It was just like maybe 5-10 minutes, like not a lot of time, just to make sure,
I think my friend had to fill out a form. My friend who basically, I describe him as my friend who supported and understood my ADHD before I got diagnosed. Like he's just, to put it very simply, I would say to him, I would like, Jordan, at 8 o'clock, remind me, just text me the color blue, just say blue, and he'll do it without question. Like he just like, this is me helping Jemmar remember to do something. And he's been doing it years before I got my diagnosis.
I was quite interested in picking on a bit about with Jemmar, the hyperactive side, in terms of, because you know how with ADHD in women, often they say that parts of the reason we tend to get later diagnosis is because of how it kind of exhibits and manifests in us, and tend to be more on the inattentive side. I just found it really interesting that you was like pointing out, Jemmar, in terms of your mum, you suspecting you had ADHD in a younger age, and I was wondering, did you suspect that and maybe it got seen in many ways earlier because you were more on the hyperactive side? So some of the things that tend to be associated with ADHD in young boys is why you kind of had maybe an idea of that it was that.
Oh, okay.
What type did? Yeah, that's a really good point. What type did everyone get diagnosed with? Did they get a specific title? Or?
I'm pretty sure I'm combined though, because like along with me being I was hyperactive as a child. I literally got put into a support group in primary school because I didn't speak in class because I was always daydreaming. I have periods when I'm being really quiet. But also, my friends know this. When Jemmar's drunk, I like to run. Like I'm just like doing laps around people. Mind you, I'm not an athlete.
It's like I'm at a bar and I'm like, who's that?
Literally, my friends would walk. My university campus is like 15 minutes like across to walk from one end to the other, and we'd walk to the club, and I'd be running. I'd run to the club and then come back and then circle around the friendship as we're walking. They know I like to run when I'm drunk. So like I do have the And also everyone always says, I'm very like on the go, giddy. So I think I'm definitely combined, because I have my moments when I'm not even here. Like what? I'm in my head thinking about all kinds of random things. I definitely think I'm combined.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm definitely combined, because I checked. I was like, let me check what is in the chart that I had. So I had like the attention, the combined, and it's definitely, I'm someone that can definitely stay in one spot for a long time. I think the hyperactivity is in my brain more than like a physical thing. I'm like, I can sit, but my brain will be, I'll do the running, So I think that I've never tried fidget toys and stuff, but I've been thinking about that. But I'm like someone that maybe I'll have to draw. Maybe like if I'm listening to people, maybe I'm gonna that's the way I think my hyper I guess manifests, So
yeah, and I'm the same as you both. So I'm combined. So similarly, I feel like from a young age I was like a vivid daydreamer. I would always be daydreaming and always over worrying. So that would all be in my brain, like have trouble sleeping and be like restless, but then also similarly be on the go. I can be shy in some situations, but if I get to know people, I can be very talkative. My boyfriend's always like, literally, you don't sit still. Like I'll be tapping, I'll be like always doing something with my hands. So yeah, I think it's something that exhibits on both sides.
I guess for them, is that masking? How has masking been, I guess, after you found out, after diagnosis?
After diagnosis, I guess it's made me more aware of like, how much I probably have masked throughout my life, and how much I feel like I've tried to overcompensate in a lot of things because of some of the things I guess I felt like I didn't do well. So I feel like I am someone who would always try and be like that really good friend and do everything for all my friends, because I guess I felt like there was things I was inadequate in. And I think there is, I'm
like
realizing,
overcompensating for
and would try and do as much as I can at work and then that's where like your boundaries are like I feel like I've always had a lack of boundaries, and that probably is because of the ADHD and feeling like, I need to prove myself. Like if I feel like I am good at something, let me push to show how good I am at this thing, because there's so many things I feel like I'm not good at. But I feel like in terms of I think getting the diagnosis, just I think like I said earlier on, I feel like it's made me have more kind of self-compassion for myself, and just take the time to be like, okay, you know what, that I've so many things you've done in spite of your ADHD and because of your ADHD. So just really weighing up that, like you said earlier, Jemmar, it's like a gift and a curse. There's so many blessings and ways. I think some of my characteristics are because of it, but there's so many things that have been harder, but just trying to learn to work with my brain now I'm aware of it.
I'm trying to think. I actually, when you first asked the question of masking, I was like, I don't think I haven't thought about it deeply, but now, Abigail, what you've said made me realize I'm the queen of overcompensating. I mean, this is not the episode to talk about this, but like I've lost so many friends because there'll be moments when I'm like present, I'm involved, I'm helping, I'm giving my all, and then I burn out, or my emotions are all over the place, or I just don't want to do anything today or speak to anyone today. And then I'm, those friends I had accuse me of being a really bad friend, because they know that I have the capacity to do the most, but why am I not doing the most now? Work. I mean, education is perfect one. Like I failed throughout school for most of my educational experience, but like extracurricular, I excelled. And I'll never forget one of my mentors once said, long story short, I was in the position of like power, and like I was facilitating with these young people, and then she was like, this young person, she speaks so smart, sounds so smart, but her grades don't reflect that. And then she turned to me, she's like you. Yes, that was an attack, and I was triggered. But thinking back to it now, I was like, that was I give a good talk, because I was masking the fact that I was failing school because I was struggling, because I did not get the support that I needed. Since you asked the question, Beza,
I just thought that like that was a major thing for me, and that I even talked about it with my therapist. That was like one of my goals, to mask less. And I'm like, a lot of times I would just internalize a situation. Like when I go into it thinking like they all know everything about me, like my failing life, my grades are failing, like I'm like, it's just like they knew everything about me, and so I have to like be this person. And like it was a lot of shame internalized, and then that would also be the way that I read other people. And so like I would kind of project that onto other people, even if they weren't thinking that. And so my masking, when I would overcompensate, like, cause like academic worth, right? That was like the main, like one of the things that I put my worth into. And I'm like, okay, if I'm not doing well in that, I think even with women, I don't know if this makes sense, but like makeup was also a version of masking for me.
Ooh,
Interesting.
Please expand.
Yeah, like I would, if my life is like falling apart, I would at least look put together with like my clothes and my makeup, and like I would just put makeup on every day, and like, okay, I have to present at least this way because of like everything else that's like failing. And so that's like a part of masking I feel like is not talked about as much, is like I definitely was using makeup to appear more normal.
I've just had that realization because of what you said. Like I feel like, and links into ADHD, and I guess in being impulsive and overspending is something that's like been big for me. But I think that's something, it would be in clothes. Like and I've never thought of that. That it is always trying to like show up and look like you've got it together. So that's something that I feel like I'd always pride myself on, and people being like, oh, you've got a good sense of style, you look to like cover the mess that was behind it all. So that's so true. I'd never really thought of that, but wow.
Yeah,
I don't think in my physical appearance is how I presented that, because I've been a bummy babe since day, like like I just got my hair done for the first time in like over a year. Usually I just have like a really messy short afro, but I think for me it was literally just like my extracurricular stuff, because I was all over the place doing workshops, this role, that role, talking. I was a yes girl to everything. Of course I do this for you, of course I do that. Now I'm trying to be like, no, have boundaries and all that kind of stuff. I won't do this, even though I want to help and be there and do amazing work. I'm trying to limit myself. Also, I'm actually human, and I require rest. I deserve rest and require rest. I guess this is again going off script, but I have a question, because I think we talked about this a little bit before, Beza, before you joined. What do you think the relationship is between, because we've heard people talk about masking, well, people with ADHD talk about masking, or neurodivergent people. We've heard people in general talk about imposter syndrome. How do you think the combined experience of someone that has ADHD, because we do deal with imposter syndrome, so how do we deal with imposter syndrome while masking? Does that make sense? I feel like there's definitely a relationship.
No, there is a relation. I think it is because we often do feel, because we've got these like added layers, especially if you're unaware of your ADHD and you can't figure out why, and especially in a lot of our cases we are putting so much effort into things that often feel so much simpler for other people. So I think that can create the masking, and then the imposter syndrome can feel like when we do, I guess, get into certain spaces or are given an opportunity to do things, because we are like, people with ADHD are way more critical of themselves than like other people. And I think because of
other people though, because
like I was just about to say that, because
it's like, oh, you have so much potential, but you know,
exactly.
Oh God, I'm triggered.
It's that constant cycle. And is it RSD, where and again I forgot what the acronym stands for, but just basically our emotional regulation is higher, partly because, like you were saying, Beza, because we're more likely to be critical of ourselves and be constantly critiqued by others. So I think that can cause that imposter syndrome,
rejection,
and that
sensitivity.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I was like, I remember my mom and my sister would be like, you're so sensitive. Like, like, why do I take everything to heart? Like, I literally would take everything to heart. And now after diagnosis, I'm like, I'm so much better.
Exactly. So I think that's where that imposter syndrome is, because when we are kind of, put that hard work in and are given opportunities and stuff, you just feel like you're not good enough, you're not supposed to be in there. And then I think that is that added intersectional layer of also being like Black women as well, so you're used to kind of not often being in certain spaces, and then you've got the ADHD on top of it. So I think there's so many layers.
Beza, do you want to add to that, or?
I don't know, I feel like imposter syndrome is very like, I don't think I feel it. I don't know if like it's like, I don't. Yeah, I know. Isn't that weird? I was
no, do you know? But that was my line of thinking. It's like I feel it, but I don't, because, and then there's the masking, and I'm like, surely there's some interaction between the two of these things.
Right. I'm like, I can do the thing if you teach me. I'm the person that's like, I have curiosity, like I have like ability to learn things. So I don't like I don't put weight on things that I don't know that I don't know what to do, how to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I don't know something, that I could just ask someone, or maybe just Google it or YouTube it or something like that. But I feel like I don't put myself in situations, or maybe at least like, I'm in grad school now, right? Like that's like a place that you should have imposter syndrome. But now after like getting diagnosed, it's like I haven't really like, I'm just like, I can learn. Like if I make a mistake, I can learn from that mistake rather than like pushing like, oh, I have to like, I don't belong here. And plus we're Black women, like we're usually like, we usually know a lot more than like, you know what I mean? So it's like the society makes us think that we don't know things. So I'm like, I know things, you know what I'm saying? Like, how come all these people can make like paths for themselves, but we got imposter syndrome, you know what I'm saying? So like, for me, I don't really feel it that much because I'm like, all these people made it. So why am I the one that has to feel the imposter syndrome, right? So, and also the society, like, you know, things are like based on like who you know and like knowing all the like structural, like the systemic issues, like, why am I gonna like put that like, you know, place burden, that on
the extra burden,
right, the burden onto me, right? Exactly. So I don't really feel it. I just feel that I have an open mind, and if I don't know something, I will learn it, you know. So
I love your vibe. I love your mindset. I don't have it. I need to embrace that.
Exactly. I feel like we all need Beza's mindset. Like,
you know what I mean? Just like have the
we're worthy to be in these spaces.
Yes, you are. You really are.
Okay, so I'm conscious of time. I'm kind of leading on from like following up from that. Abigail, I apologize because I'm taking your question. But Beza, now that you're diagnosed, what does it mean to have ADHD and be neurodivergent?
What does it mean? I guess that I claim that I think this is kind of weird too in like African communities, you know, and like claiming like, oh, disability, you know, or like not claiming disability as in like the money. Like I don't claim that. I mean, like claiming that you're a disabled person, I guess. Like I don't claim it in like I don't like tell the like government, you know what I mean? But like for myself, it's like being like getting like accommodations at uni, like that's a thing that like, you know, they call it the disability center, you know, right? So it's like I'm getting accommodations there. So obviously like seeing that myself as a disabled person is like one of the things that getting diagnosed has brought to me. And also less like my life was just like so anxiety ridden, and like timing was everything. Like I know the pandemic like helped me so much. Like it's weird because like everything slowed down. I was like, I need the world to slow down because I was going to uni, I was doing work, I had to I drove my car, the bus time, the school, when school starts, you know, like everything was like timing issue. Like I got to sleep as well. It was like everything was just on the go, and like we got to eat too. Like that's so what? There's a lot of things that we got to do in a day. Like
people don't understand how hard it is to remember to eat.
Yeah.
So like that really like once like since I got diagnosed during the pandemic, and like online classes really worked for me as well. And so for me, it taught myself to not look inward, but to see what else I can seek to help me through this issue, you know. Like before I'd be like, I'm a bad person, like I'm a bad friend, I'm a bad student, like why am I like not like, you know, that potential word, like why am I not using my potential? I'm like, I know I'm capable of doing this thing. Like why am I remember even in high school, we went to my school counselor, my mom, and we had a meeting, my school counselor, me, and my mother came to campus or like the school, and we just had this conversation about procrastinating. Like that was literally the meeting. And I was like, how come we like never caught it? Like we literally like we tried to fix it, and like it was like a whole thing that we did. This was like in maybe senior or junior year of high school. And so like all these things were like, it was just like an outer world. Like it was just like, I'm a procrastinator and all these things. Like we literally had like signs that like, and we also tried to fix them. Like my mother was like a very great advocate like for like different things, but it was just like we didn't know what it was, you know. Like she was able to come to my school and talk about this with my counselor. So like that is like a really great step, but we didn't like take it further to like the ADHD. So it was more like internalizing my own. I was like ashamed about my own like actions. I was like why am I not just paying attention to my homework, turning in my homework, like all these things. So now I'm able to like let my professors know like, hey, I'm gonna be maybe a little, I have also the accommodation of like turning in things later. And so I just know that it's not a characteristic in like a, I don't know, like I just don't think of myself as a negative way. But I think before I was just like, oh, I'm so talkative. Like I wish I could, like I literally would journal, like I wish I could change my personality. Like that was like one of my main like things about myself. I'm like, I just wish I could change my personality. But now I'm like, hey, like I understand also my introvertedness as well. Like I'm both, you know, so I think I really just gave myself like grace to be who I am. And rather than switch myself to like be in those structural systems, I try to like at least wiggle my way and try to like ask people for like the things that I need rather than trying to like force that, you know? So yeah, I would have definitely not been able to ask if I didn't have like a official diagnosis, because it does make a difference, but it's also problematic that it makes you can finally ask for the things you need after a diagnosis, because people that don't have it deserve to, you know, ask for those things as well. So
thank you. There's so much I could say leading on following on from that, but what I will say is I also try to give myself grace. I'm really bad at it, I'm not gonna lie, but I try to give myself grace. And I've just I always have to like remind myself that, I mean, sometimes I don't even like the word disabled, but like I'm just different. Words to change, I'm different.
Why don't you like the word disabled?
Because it sounds like I'm at a disadvantage. I mean, technically I am in this society, but I'm not as a person, I'm not as a disadvantage. Society was never built for someone like me.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And the way my brain is, the way the way ADHD makes me is that I can never function. Like it was a really bad that back and forth I had with someone, but like because they actually don't understand ADHD and didn't really think it was a thing. But he was trying to make the argument that like kind of that argument of everyone has ADHD, and it's like I mean, which is like messed up, yeah, but like at the same time it's like, imagine if society was accommodating for people that like the way
I get what
accommodations that people that ADHD have, what if society was like that for everyone in general? Wouldn't that be much better and beneficial for everyone, instead of like us trying to conform to the society that doesn't work for us? So I have to always remind myself that society is not built for me. I mean, I remind myself of that in so many things, as a Black woman, as working class, as a child of it. Do you mean like as a queer person? I remind myself of these things so much all the time. It's kind of overwhelming. So sometimes I'm just like, because obviously ADHD is like the most recent thing that's been added to my identity, and it's like sometimes I'm just like, okay, cool, I don't even think about the fact that I have ADHD. Sometimes I genuinely forget, and then I mess up and I'm like, what happened? And one of my, like literally the other day I was like low on money and my friend's like, Jemmar, you have ADHD, I'm like, you're gonna like and like you spend a lot because impulsive buys. I was like, oh, you're right. I was like, how did I forget that? And I love to my friend, she's actually in the other room, I need to thank her for that, because I didn't remember that like that's the thing, and I didn't tell her. So she knew this because, you know, it's becoming common knowledge that, you know, these are the experiences of people that have ADHD. But yeah, I try to give myself grace, and I try to always remind myself that society wasn't built for me, so it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard, I'm not going to have it easy. Some days it's having ADHD like it's great, excuse my language, but like some other days it's really hard and I just can't function. Abigail, do you wanna?
Yeah, you guys have just said so many of my similar thoughts. It is just having that, it's helped me having the official diagnosis to have the self-understanding and self-compassion for myself, and just being able to forgive past mistakes, like you both said, give myself grace, and just learn more, and constantly learn to work with my brain, and just remind myself of all the things I've been able to achieve even with it. And yeah, just to be kind. And just one thing that's really like resonated with me that I want to say, because obviously I'm conscious that obviously we've all been talking about getting diagnosis, and we're blessed that we have been able to get official diagnosis, but I just really want to push for those that haven't, like, you're justified if you've like done all the research and you've looked into everything, and you feel like what you have is ADHD. You have ADHD. So like, please give yourself the same grace as well. Don't feel like you have to have that official validation from a psychiatrist to say that you have ADHD. And I think that's what's been so good about ADHD Babes, because it supported so many of us as we've gone on that journey. And I think me really doing that research meant I was able to advocate for myself to get that official diagnosis, because if I hadn't, it would have, as we've all touched on, just been such a battle. So I think, yeah, I just really want to say that to all the ADHD babes, that even if you don't have that official diagnosis, because it's such a journey, as we've all talked about, like, your journey is valid, your symptoms are valid, and give yourself grace. Don't feel like you have to have that official badge to give yourself that grace.
I think that was an amazing recap. Like, Abigail, that was amazing. Like, I don't know if Shauna disagrees or agrees, but I think that was an amazing recap. Beza, I don't know if you want to like drop your socials, if you want people to be in contact with you. It's fine if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't post like ADHD related content, but if you want to find me, I'm at BEZIIYE on Instagram. And I don't really, I'm like, I don't know how I feel like ADHD and like posting things online. I'm like, I don't know if sometimes I think about it as like a content I'm like, is it a content creator thing to like post things about that? Like sometimes I'll repost other people's like stuff, but I think, I'm just like a normal Instagram person. So
I feel like we're all experts on our ADHD. So I feel like you have every right to post.
Also,
post
maybe
related to it.
if someone's listening and someone feels connected to one of us or all of us, why not connect and like just,
Truth.
It's this community.
That's why we're here. Okay.
That's why we're here. ADHD Babes.
Yes, love it.
Beza, I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Yes, I loved it.
I enjoyed myself. Mind you, I'm very hungry right now, but I enjoyed myself.
I know, go get your pizza.
That pizza's called my name. And my potato wedges, because I love potato wedges. Abigail, do you want to start?
Yes. Don't forget, you can reach out to us with a message for our Dear Babes advice episodes. You can send us a voice note or written message by clicking the link on the show notes.
If you'd like to join ADHD Babes or learn more, you'll find the links to our website and social media pages in the show notes, as well as visiting ADHDBabes.com.
Thanks for listening. This has been so fun, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and needs help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit ADHDBabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.